Since the dawn of time, man has been driven by a need to discover and explore the world around us. This is evident in expeditions of the past like Columbus's discovery of the New World and still to this day in archaeology and deep-sea exploration. Even after a major discovery is made, the information can wind up lost in the pages of scientific journals and textbooks for years before it trickles down to the average person. The Stone Age is a name given to the period of time roughly 3 million years ago. It was during this period that man began using tools, and the advancements made during this time ushered in metalworking techniques that would change the face of human history. But even though Stone Age man didn't have the advantages of modern machinery, it didn't stop them from creating some pretty impressive infrastructure. Among the many discoveries of the ancient world lies a sense of intricate underground tunnels in Europe. When archaeologists first discovered the tunnels, they were astonished to learn that they had actually been dug by hands millions of years earlier by ancient humans. This phenomenal network of tunnels covered most of Europe, including Scotland and Turkey. While no one can be entirely sure what they were used for, getting an idea of how they may have been used requires that we consider what life would have been like for the workers who originally created them. The Stone Age is widely known to have been not just a formative time in human history, but also a dangerous one. Many large beasts roamed the earth, and weather was largely misunderstood and almost entirely unpredictable. This meant that a storm or migrant species could have easily spelled disaster for small groups of early humans. The harsh nature of these living conditions meant that the tunnels likely served to facilitate travel for those trying to avoid predators, weather, and even conflict with other humans. Whatever the reason for their creation, this massive network is an impressive feat that until recently was largely unknown. Hollywood has long been fascinated with the mysteries of lost relics, and the next entry on our list feels just like something from Indiana Jones or even the National Treasure franchise. Most people at this point are familiar with the Dead Sea Scrolls, which were discovered in the 1940s and 50s. The scrolls have particular religious significance, as most of the writings contained in them have been canonized in the Bible. Of the 981 artifacts discovered, most were written on parchment and some on papyrus, but one in particular was actually made of pure copper. This copper scroll, while discovered among the other manuscripts, is thought to have served a much different purpose. Anthropologists and language experts suspect that the artifact is actually a real-life treasure map with directions to an ancient cache of riches. The only problem is that to date, no one has been able to decipher the document successfully, meaning that even if the great treasure is still out there, we may never find it. In October of 2019, a 161-acre site was discovered 50 kilometers from Tel Aviv in Israel. 5,000 years ago, the site was home to the biblical area known as Canaan. When the area was rediscovered by archaeologists, it was dubbed En-Asir, and a massive excavation began. At the site, researchers began unearthing a plethora of artifacts. Among them were millions of pottery fragments, flint tools, basalt stone vessels, and even a large temple filled with burnt animal bones and figurines. All in all, scientists figured that nearly 6,000 people may have lived in the settlement, a massive number of people at that time in history. Among the relics was a figurine depicting a seal with a human head and extremities. The weird human-seal hybrid is positioned with their hands raised up, possibly in some type of worship. Regardless of the meaning of it, the figurine definitely captivated researchers who are still attempting to learn more about it. Other things discovered at the scene included public areas, streets, alleyways, and more complex and carefully planned infrastructure. In a statement to the media, researchers said that the huge city was a place where, quote, thousands of inhabitants who made their living from agriculture lived and traded with different regions and even with different cultures and kingdoms in the area. This real-life landlocked Atlantis represents a major discovery and calls into question much of what was known about the area during that period. In July of 2019, archaeologists were reviewing satellite images when something caught their eye: a massive wall. The wall appeared to stretch for approximately 71 miles, and by November, researchers descended on the area in Sarpol El Zahab County, Iran, and what they saw was unlike anything they could have imagined. The wall has been severely damaged by weather and environmental factors, but scientists believe that the wall was originally about 13 feet wide and around 10 feet high. In order to build the wall that high over such a great distance would have required approximately 35.4 million cubic feet of stone. While it's still not clear exactly why the wall was built, who built it, or when it was built, pottery found alongside it suggests that it was likely built between the 4th century BC and 6th century AD. Given this information, it's believed that the wall was built by either the Parthians or the Sasanians. Another possible indication of the wall's original purpose is the remnants of structures all along the wall. Unfortunately, many of the remnants have been severely damaged, and it's difficult to know what they may have originally been. While the discovery was hailed as brand new in 2019, there were actually researchers who had previously attempted to learn about the wall but didn't return any findings. Because of this, their findings were never published or shared with anyone outside the team. The wall was also known to locals who called it the Gallery Wall, but we're pretty sure that 5 minutes ago you had no idea that it existed. Many of history's most important discoveries have resulted from complete accidents, and that's exactly what happened when a miner from Alberta, Canada stumbled across fossils that were unlike anything archaeologists had seen before. On March 21, 2011, Sean Funk was hard at work in an Alberta mine when he felt his backhoe hit something much harder than the surrounding rock. Curious, Sean decided to explore, and that's when he saw what he described as, quote, row after row of sandy brown discs, each ringed in a gunmetal gray stone. That's when authorities were notified and researchers swarmed to the site. Initially, they thought that they would likely discover a plesiosaur specimen, a more commonly seen marine reptile. But as they began to excavate the site, it became clear that this was no previously known dinosaur. What they found would go on to be known as the nodosaur and likely resembled a cross between a lizard and a lion. But not only is this the first known specimen, it is also one of the best preserved fossilizations ever discovered. In fact, it was so well preserved that it still contained remnants of skin and bumpy armor plates that covered the animal's skull. Postdoctoral researcher Caleb Brown said of the discovery, quote, we don't just have a skeleton, we have a dinosaur as it would have been. Ninjas are a notoriously sneaky bunch, and hiding in plain sight is something that comes fairly naturally to them, but apparently their paperwork was also endowed with this mystical ability. For over 50 years, a collection of documents have been stored at Mie University's International Ninja Research Center in Iga, Japan. But until recently, they had not been properly analyzed and cataloged when researchers finally took on the daunting task of going through all of it. Their efforts were rewarded with the discovery of a 300-year-old document bearing the signature of a ninja named Inosuke Kizu. The document was a sacred pledge, vowing never to reveal the sensitive information bestowed upon him during his ninja training. According to the document, if Kizu had betrayed the oath, he would have faced punishment from over 60 immortal gods. The document is a testament to the strict regime and extreme secrecy involved in ancient ninjutsu training. For centuries, people have been fascinated by the culture of ancient Greece. For archaeologists, that included hunting for a lost city known as Tania. Finally, in November of 2018, the city was located in Peloponnese. The ancient city is believed to be the first spot settled by Trojan captives of war after the infamous sack of Troy. Until this point, the city was mostly known through references in ancient texts, but the discovery of these ruins means not only can the existence of Tania be verified, but even more intricate timelines can be established thanks to the presence of over 200 coins dating back to 4th century BC. Inuit culture has always been rich with legends passed down through the generations, but perhaps one of the most famous is the legend of the king bear, also known as the weasel bear. The Inuit people depend on hunting polar bear as a food source and a source of worm materials. It has always been this way for centuries. But if the idea of taking on a polar bear wasn't scary enough, a legend tells of an enormous, narrow-bodied bear that moves like a demon. A bear that no man could kill, the legend goes. The legend was long considered an imaginative story, but in 2014, scientists unearthed a bear skull several times larger and narrower than any known specimen. This discovery could very well lend credence to the ancient tales of the king bear and calls into question if there could be even more of them living in vast areas of unexplored Arctic. Nowadays, people make music with a wide range of highly specialized instruments from guitars to complex synthesizers, but most people give very little thought to the world's very first musical instrument. During an excavation in Little River Valley in the Henan province of central China, archaeologists unearthed 6 flutes that were incredibly well preserved. One was so well preserved, in fact, that it was still playable and covers roughly an octave. This means that Neolithic music was likely far more complex than archaeologists had previously thought. In fact, it was widely believed that early musical instruments were only capable of producing single notes, an idea that is now under much closer scrutiny. Which entries on today's list did you not know about 5 minutes ago? Which was your favorite? Let us know in the comment section down below. With all that said and done, that's our video for today, and I will see you all next time. Later, everybody.